Okay, thank you all so much for being here for BBB Cincinnati's National Consumer Protection Week Media Day. National Consumer Protection Week reminds all of us that scammers never take a day off. They're turning everyday messages and calls into high-pressure schemes that drain thousands from local families and businesses. Today, you're going to hear directly from the FTC, from the Attorney General's office in Ohio, and also from the FBI here in Cincinnati about patterns that are hitting our community hardest. Over 48% of all scams reported to BBB Cincinnati last year involved fake remote job offers, fraudulent investment in crypto platforms, imposter debt collections, and relief money or government lookalike websites promising unclaimed funds. We want to share what consumers can do to protect themselves from these scams. Christine Hayley, VP of Operations, will open with our local BBB scam tracker data, and then our speakers will share their insights. Thank you so much for covering this critical issue. Your reporting helps protect our consumers here in Cincinnati. So let's get started.
Thank you, Ainsley. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for coming out to BBB Cincinnati's National Consumer Protection Week Media Day. Our theme today grows directly out of what we saw in 2025. Everyday messaging turning into high-pressure demands for money. Scammers are using calls, texts, voicemail, and social media posts to move thousands of Cincinnati dollars in minutes. BBB Scam Tracker is our tool where consumers report suspicious contacts in real time. For today, we pulled recent examples from across our service area, which covers Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky, and Southeast Indiana. And this is what we're hearing out here. What we're seeing includes fake remote jobs that require upfront deposits, fake or crypto task platforms that trapped $59,000 from one victim, fake law firms and debt collectors threatening arrest unless people pay immediately, and government imposters promising federal relief checks that don't exist. All of these scams are specific and nuanced, but we've identified some universal warning signs that show up again and again. Across these scams, red flags are very similar. Unsolicited contact by call, voice, email, or text, pressure to act now or face consequences or just simply miss out on it, requests for upfront payments, deposits, or sensitive information, and demands for unusual payment methods like wire, crypto, and peer-to-peer apps. In one scam report, a woman wrote, "I was sent the link to make some money as I am a disabled single mom, and I didn't make any of the money, yet I ended up losing everything." She lost $4,500 to a fake task job platform that required her to send money first. That's exactly the kind of situation where the red flags were present: urgency, upfront payment, and a promise that felt too good to be true. We want consumers to notice these warning signs before they send money or information, and you can help us in getting the message out. So, if you receive a suspicious message and notice any of these red flags, we're asking people to report it right away to BBB Scam Tracker. Those reports spot patterns, warn others, and we can connect victims to help before the money is actually lost. You'll hear next from our national, state, and local partners about these patterns and how to fight them. After each speaker, I'll moderate a brief question and answer so we can stay focused on what local consumers need to know right now. So first, I'm pleased to introduce our virtual speaker from the Federal Trade Commission's East Central Region, Sammi Nachtigal. Sammi?
Yes, thanks so much for having me. This is such important messaging to get out, so I'm so grateful to be here and be part of this event. Just at the outset, have to say that the opinions and thoughts that I express are my own, and I don't speak on behalf of the commission or any one commissioner. But let's go ahead and get into some good information that we have to share today. Okay, so I'm hoping to be sharing my slide right here. This is information data that we've received from Consumer Reports as they come in, and we're able to drill down specifically on the Cincinnati metro region. And what we see is, as the intro speaker mentioned, imposter scams are the #1 scam that are being reported. And this tracks with the rest of the nation as far as top type of scam reported. We also see that are trending really high in this area are the online shopping and negative review, internet services, business and job opportunity, and investment related. And that investment related and business opportunity, often those go hand in hand. We have an example of a type of business opportunity investment related scam that we recently shut down. So, there's sometimes crossover in these categories, but what we can see by the numbers are imposter scam way out in the lead. This is truly what consumers are experiencing out there, and this information is just the tip of the iceberg, because we know most people encounter scams and don't report them. Quick stop sharing here. So I mentioned that we did have a successful case brought against a business opportunity scam. That was Growth Cave. We sued them back in February 2025 and recently secured a settlement banning the defendants from marketing and selling. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to just keep going. I can't really see anything, so please shout out if something's going on or I need to stop. So we secured a pretty big settlement against them, and most importantly, banned them from entering the marketing and selling business opportunities in the future. In that case, they were offering these, promised results that ended up costing consumers thousands of dollars. An additional business opportunity investment type combo scam here was RivX. They were offering consumers the opportunity to invest in the trucking industry, claiming that once the consumer pays $75,000, they will get a semi-truck in their name, and then the RivX, the company, will operate all the logistics around it, the loads, drivers, and all that. In reality, no one is recouping their investment, let alone making a profit, despite the deceptive promises that the company made. So people lost lots and lots of money in that case, and we were able to ban the defendants from engaging in business or investment opportunity scams, and secured an $8.39 million judgment against them. Other ways that we're going after imposter scams. So we have our new imposter rule that we're trying to go after them, but also in a more creative way is going after payment processors. And we recently went after payment processors, had brought a case against them for violating a 2015 order that we had in place against them that was supposed to make sure that they were detecting and preventing fraud. And when they were not meeting those order requirements, and we are now suing them for violating that order. So those are ways, some of the aspects of that order were that we are alleging they're violating is that they're assisting and facilitating clients' tactics to avoid bank and credit card network fraud and risk monitoring programs. They were required but are failing to process transactions, but are processing transactions for high-risk clients without engaging in reasonable efforts to screen those clients' business practices to determine if they're likely to be deceptive. So that is a different way that we're trying to be creative as far as combating imposter scams and fraud that's out in the marketplace. And so lastly, just want to give away my favorite line as far as, what people should walk away, have in the back of their mind when they're encountering a scam. If they're telling you to pay a certain way, this is the one that I think can tip people off the most. If they're telling you to pay a certain way, that's a scam. Because real businesses, real players in the marketplace are not going to have you require that you pay by gift card. They're not going to require that you pay by cryptocurrency. If they're saying to go to a government kiosk to pay, they're not a real government agent. Those do not exist. That is a sure sign. That is a scam. And if you have questions about any of those cases or about any of the data, or anything about imposter scams, I'd love to take those now, or after the speakers, I will transition now. It's a little bit awkward for me because I can't see anything, but I'll go ahead and go on mute.
Well, thank you, Sammi. Before going on to mute, does anyone have any questions for Sammi?
I'll ask real quick, and probably you tell her
Yep.
if you can't hear me. Where you mentioned, I'm always keen when I hear phrases and things that I've never heard of before. A government kiosk, that seems interesting to me. I don't know that I'm aware that what scammers are saying, go to XYZ place and there'll be a thing there, and you just talk about that, and heaven forbid we hear about that here in Cincinnati. Hopefully we will not. But what is the government kiosk deal?
Yeah, so this is something, and this is why consumers reporting to us what's happening, what they're encountering in these scams is so important, because this is what we're hearing from consumers, is that scammers are telling folks that your money is at risk. We're calling, the scammer saying, we're calling from the government, your money is at risk, and in order to protect it, you have to move it. And so go to this government kiosk, which is, they're saying, which is a cryptocurrency location, and move your money through cryptocurrency, and that's how to protect. All of that should sound very shady, because it is, because that is absolutely a scam. But yeah, that term government kiosk, if you haven't heard of it, great, because it's not real. And if you do hear of it, that's a sign it's a scam.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions for Sammi? All right. Well, Sammi, I do have one question for you. Can you walk us through what typically happens after someone reports something like this to the FTC? What can they expect, and kind of what action do you guys take?
Yeah, so that's a great question. One, when people report to us, we get lots of reports from both partners as well as individual consumers reporting at reportfraud.ftc.gov. And that goes into our Consumer Sentinel network, and as attorneys, as investigators, we're able to go through those complaints and look for trends. Look for if there's a lot about one particular company been targeting in that space. Maybe
Hey,
it's not.
Sammi, sorry to interrupt. We
Yes?
just lost you for a second there. Can you repeat that last bit?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we've had some weird spotty internet, which is bad timing, I realize, for this. But please always tell me to repeat if that happens again. But anyway, so when consumers report, it goes to our Consumer Sentinel database, as well as if we get reports from our partners like state AG groups or BBB as well. We can get those reports as well into this service, and then we know for targeting law enforcement purposes, if we're seeing a lot of complaints come in about a particular company or business practice, we're able to go and investigate there, maybe bring a case. Alternatively, we don't know when to change our messaging or when to add new information. So like with the government kiosk thing. Or, we recently saw a new trending with the typical jury scam, saying, oh, you have jury duty. And what they were doing, new scam tactic was sending them to this fake website. The only way we know that that's happening is as reports are coming in. So that's why it's so important to report. One, it informs our law enforcement activity, as well as it informs our messaging. And then we can target our message and make sure the right information is getting out, and we can stay up to date about how these scams are changing.
Great. Thank you, Sammi. I really appreciate that. Last call for questions for Sammi. No? Well, Sammi, we appreciate all of the information you provided us today. Very valuable. And we hope to talk in the future in a forum like this, not about a scam.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you so much for including the FTC here and for doing all the great work that you're doing here in Cincinnati.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have Ryan Lippe, Consumer Educator with the Ohio Attorney General's Office. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you to all the partners in attendance, FBI, Federal Trade Commission. You are all valuable partners, not just during National Consumer Protection Week, but for those participants like myself, this is an all year round effort. This is literally a 365 effort to combat scams and fraud, help people with identity theft, help people be more safer with their devices. And no longer are devices limited to laptops, because we've got tablets and smartphones that are way more powerful than the laptops of old. But Chris mentioned a few specific scam tracker reports, and I wanted to try to put a little bit of meat on those and let you know from our perspective at the Attorney General's office, since we get about 30,000 complaints a year. Now, some of them are legitimate business complaints, and then some of them are scams. But I wanted to mention each one of those four in the scam tracker, since she specifically highlighted them, and give you a little bit more detail. Fake remote task and job offers. We have definitely seen many job scams that promise high pay with minimal effort, but they often result in people giving up their personal information, people giving up access to their financial accounts, not to mention their social media accounts. And social media is unfortunately, the perfect tool that scammers and fraudsters can use to perpetuate a job hiring type scam. And as you know, that's one of the few times you ever have to take out your social security card is when you're finalizing your job offer with HR. You need to sometimes present that card or at least know your social security number. But a lot of times in these job scams, they ask for it really early on in the process because they're planning on going to identity theft purposes with that information. But before applying to any job posting, research the company thoroughly. Signs of potential job scams include a number of red flags. I'll highlight a few of them. If the posting includes vague job descriptions and claims you can make hundreds or thousands of dollars doing very little work, you would be surprised at how many vulnerable individuals that are really hard up and looking for money and looking for some quick solutions are going to fall prey to vague job descriptions and promises out there that will never result in a paycheck. If they communicate from free or personal email accounts, I mean, if they're with a Fortune 500 company and it's coming from Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, or AOL, red flag number one to me. If you're hired without ever meeting anyone in person, now sometimes things can be done, work from home, remember COVID, remember a lot of people now are based at home, at least part-time. But without ever meeting anybody in person for a too good to be true offer is probably a scam. If the company doesn't have a website, if you receive a check before any work is performed, and if you're asked to wire transfer money or purchase prepaid money cards. Those are just a few of the red flags. Because there's a lot of other red flags, but here's a bonus red flag for you. The bonus red flag is if you are applying to a company and the job is not even posted on that company's website through their career section, that's another tip that it might be a scam. If they're not trying to recruit through their normal channels online and they're using some special recruiter or some special person, another red flag. Not always a scam. The story may check out, but it's probably a scam. We also see a lot of vulnerabilities in terms of investment scams and crypto. The Securities and Exchange Commission is a great partner in terms of red flags, as is the Ohio Department of Commerce, because the Ohio Department of Commerce has the Division of Securities and the Division of Financial Institutions. There's a lot of warnings for consumers. But look out for unlicensed investment professionals. Look out for risk-free investment opportunities. Know what the bank down the street will give you for interest in a savings account. That's a no-risk opportunity, and it's going to get you less than 1% interest. If you shop online, it's still going to get you 4% interest. Anything that claims to give you 20% or double your money, or a sure thing that the more money you're going to put in, the more profit you're going to get, is a sure sign of a scam, or at least something that has a lot of risk inherited in it. And again, you want to report scams to local authorities as well as state and federal partners. I'm going to go over primary tips about handling scams when I'm done. But the third topic I wanted to discuss was debt collection and law firm imposters. It can be difficult to tell a phony debt collector from a legitimate debt collector. Delaware County, I heard about a case in Delaware County where a lady was given 45 minutes to come up with $2,100 in prepaid money cards to pay back a debt. It wasn't a legitimate debt collector. It was a scammer. She went to the drugstore to try to buy $2,100 in prepaid money cards. This story turned out well. better than expected because they refused to sell her the money cards because they knew exactly why she was there and understood her story. But scammers will get you to lie. They'll stay on the phone with you during the entire process. Believe me, it is worth it for them to stay on the phone for 2 hours while you walk to the grocery store to get those prepaid cards because they're looking at money for nothing. It's built into their job that they're going to have to stay on the phone and spend some time with you to be able to get you money and personal information. And of course, there are a lot of rules that apply to third-party debt collectors that certainly scammers will avoid. If they're calling you early in the morning or late at night, legitimate debt collectors can only contact you from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. So if they're abusing you, if they're saying that they'll disclose your debt to family, friends, or your employer, if they pressure you to pay, as Sammi was saying from the Federal Trade Commission, if they're focused on one currency, if they want you to go to that Bitcoin ATM, if they want you to do an Amazon gift card, if they want to one of the vanilla prepaid money cards, if they're demanding you go to the convenience store and use Western Union or MoneyGram, sure sign of a scam. Relief money and government lookalike websites was something else brought up in Cincinnati in terms of scam tracker. I mean, scammers pose as representatives from government agencies all the time. In fact, I would say by volume, the biggest kind of scam we get at the Ohio Attorney General's office by volume is imposter scams. People posing as Social Security, people posing as Medicare, people posing as the IRS. I remember there was one case, did not involve our office, but they caught 90 folks in India that were supporting an IRS scam, telling everybody that they owed money to the IRS and personal information when it was just all a ruse. It was totally fake. They weren't representing any official United States agency. They were scamming people in yet another IRS imposter scam. So there's some red flags in terms of government lookalike websites. If it's not a .gov and it's a federal agency they're talking to you about, it's probably a scam. If you need to wire money, if you're told to act now, just like the lady from Delaware County, they're giving you 45 minutes to come up with $2,100. That is a tactic they use to catch you flat-footed. That's a tactic they use to put that pressure on you, to put that lock on you so they have your attention. And if they want you to send money in advance to secure or insure a loan, or if they want more personal information than is necessary for that transaction, that's a sign of a scam. Now, some action steps for scam victims. Fortunately, I am with Stephen Mott from the FBI, who's going to come up after me and talk about the Internet Crime Complaint Center, the IC3.gov. We heavily promote that website for you to report internet-based scams to. You want to report it immediately to the bank, the money transfer service, or the other source you use to send the money. And I think Steve will agree that time is of the essence to be able to try to save any part of those funds that you've sent through crypto, gift card, MoneyGram, Western Union, things like that. And watch out for the peer-to-peer payment networks. Watch out for Cash App and PayPal and Zelle and Venmo. Those are absolutely fine mechanisms to send funds to friends and family, people you already know. A lot of times there are very few, if any, consumer protections, especially with Cash App and some of the others, if you're doing business using that kind of resource. You can always contact the Ohio Attorney General's office. We have a hotline that is absolutely toll-free, 800-282-0515. Again, we average 30,000 complaints a year. This was a big year for us. We were at over 29,000 complaints. Not just scam complaints, but also complaints against businesses that may be less than reputable, that don't see eye to eye with the consumer. Also, our website, ohioprotects.org. Wonderful way to get information as well as file complaints and report scams. There are some videos on there, and I encourage you to watch the videos on ohioprotects.org if you're interested in more information about robocalls and unwanted calls. Certainly, you can contact police. You can secure your financial accounts by calling your financial institutions. Report identity theft. A lot of times, an agency like ours will want to see a police report if you've already discovered identity theft in your life. We are fortunate at the Ohio Attorney General's office to actually have on-the-ground resources to rectify the effects of identity theft. I would say that's an underutilized service that our office provides for free. And then certainly reviewing credit reports. The Federal Trade Commission, all these federal efforts out there include your ability to get credit reports for free. There's 3 credit reporting agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. All 3 of them are opened up on annualcreditreport.com. That is your one safe way to get free, no strings attached credit reports, and you can do it every week. I know the title is still annualcreditreport.com, but during the pandemic, some people don't realize that they actually opened up and kept it open for up to weekly credit reports from all 3 credit reporting agencies if you're just requesting your own credit report. So I definitely want to thank everybody. I brought some materials, some examples of our publications for the media and for people that are in attendance today. I encourage you to use those materials and refer consumers to these materials on our website at ohioprotects.org. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay up here. Does anyone have any questions for Ryan?
I do. So I work with the Scam Record Report. My name is Anita Davis. I'm at Review and Investigations Specialist here at the BBB. And I talk to victims often, and one of the questions that they have is who is the local and government agency, what can they actually do for the victims that have been victimized? Report a case, call you guys, give awareness about the scam, but what do you guys actually do?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it depends. A lot of the scammers are overseas. In that case, sometimes the best we can do is use it for educational purposes and to let people know in communities across Ohio that that's exactly the behavior of a scam artist and exactly what those consumers' experiences have been. There are cases when things can get referred to our economic crimes unit. That is a team that is working with county prosecutors and local law enforcement. Most of the consumer laws, there's 25 state consumer laws, most of them are giving us civil authority, not criminal authority. But what the economic crimes unit does is, if there's a criminal offense, we can go to local law enforcement in that county. We can go to county prosecutor and become assistant prosecutor, special prosecutor on a case. That was resulted in restitution in hundreds of thousands of dollars in 2025. But unfortunately, the number of prosecutions isn't up to that level where you might expect, because a lot of the scammers are overseas. They hide behind caller ID spoofing. That's technology that lets you put any phone number in your caller ID machine that the scammer wants you to see. So if you think looking at your phone caller ID display that 513 or 937 means it's a local call, think again. It may be a scam artist that knows you're going to pick up the phone if it's a local number. Which brings me to tip number 1, which is don't answer the phone if you don't know the phone number. It's a recipe for giving you more calls, not fewer calls. Many of the calls we're getting through are scammers, because if you're on the do not call list, which I'm personally on, the donotcall.gov, legitimate sales representatives and telemarketers should not be calling you unless you have a business relationship with them or there's another exception out there. So if you're getting calls, it's likely at least some of those calls are coming from complete scam artists.
Ryan, I do have one question.
Sure.
So of the red flags you've mentioned, of the red flags I've mentioned, obviously the first thing is don't pick up.
Yes.
If you do pick up, hang up if you spot the warning flag.
Absolutely.
And then report it.
Report it.
Anything else that you would recommend?
Look for those currency methods that we talked about. Look for peer-to-peer networks, any visits to Bitcoin ATMs they want you to make, any visits to the convenience store, the grocery store, the big box store to get gift cards. Prepaid money cards are popular, as are wire transfers using MoneyGram and Western Union. There have been lots of suits and settlements over the years with MoneyGram and Western Union. Again, it's a fine service if you just want to give money to friends and family. Not so fine if it's a stranger.
Great. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, comments?
I do have one more question.
Sure.
Robocalls.
Yeah.
You mentioned not to answer if you talk to someone
Mm-hmm.
so you had to answer numbers that you weren't familiar with.
Yes. One way is to report it to the carrier. Almost every carrier I'm aware of, cell phone carrier, accepts forwarding text messages to 7726, which spells out spam. If you forward text messages you don't want to 7726, that'll at least tell your carrier that you didn't appreciate that text, it wasn't wanted, and you should probably block it. Now, the carrier may not block it, but they may put a potential scam on the caller ID display of future customers that get calls. It may say scam likely, some kind of warning to the consumer that they may not want to pick up that phone call. Also, report illegal robocalls to our office. We do have a robocall enforcement unit. We've gotten tens of thousands of unwanted call notification reports to our office. Are we stopping all the calls? Obviously not, unfortunately. But continue to report. And then certainly you can also call our toll-free number or go to our website. It takes less than a minute to fill out that unwanted call form. Same thing with text messages.
Any other questions?
Hopefully there'll be a chance maybe just for a brief interview afterwards with it.
Sure.
You can stick around after we hear. That'd be great. It's safe for you.
Absolutely.
Get the podium and then.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. All right, and our final speaker this morning is Stephen Mott. He is a forensic accountant with the FBI Cincinnati field office.
Thank you, Chris. And before I start, I want to thank Ainsley and the rest of the staff here at the Better Business Bureau. We at the FBI feel like some of our most effective methods for stopping this kind of activity is to reach as wide an audience. We do a lot of presentations, and so we're always appreciative of an opportunity to get in front of a group and spread the message. I do want to start a little bit with Ryan mentioned the IC3, which is the Internet Crime Complaint Center. This is a FBI website that we use to generate, people lodge complaints about the scams that they have been wrapped up in. Data submitted through the website is analyzed. It produces intelligence on emerging threats and new trends, and it allows us to alert the public of industry and the emerging scams. Just some statistics from 2024. We're still putting together our 2025 numbers, annual report. We received in 2024 859,000 total complaints. There were $16.6 billion in reported losses, which is a 33% increase in 2023. So this is still a growing problem. There were 256,000 complaints of losses, and the average loss was over $19,000. And then a large number of these victims involve people over 60, which we consider elder fraud. Those victims had a total reported loss of $4.8 billion. Something else on the ic3.gov website that is available for people just looking for information is we have information on the different types of scams. We talk about the red flags to look out for. Some of them have been mentioned, payments in crypto and in gift cards, the request to change any kind of communication to encrypted messaging apps, ways to protect yourself, which is be very suspicious of unknown callers, or if you get phone calls from unknown numbers, like Brian mentioned. And then if you get an email address that's asking for personal information, be cautious about that. Look for curious emails or emails that don't exactly respond to the purported business that may be reaching out. And then don't click on attached links. If you get something from an unknown number or an email, be very cautious. Don't click on those links. Also, what to do if you believe you've been scammed. Like it's been mentioned before, immediately, time is of the essence. Contact law enforcement. Contact your banks and financial institutions. Sometimes, not a lot of the time, but sometimes we can make a difference. And then keep all the pertinent records, because if you go to ic3.gov and make a complaint, we will use that data, and we will use that in future investigations sometimes. Another thing we have is a good pamphlet on AI deepfakes. We're just starting to see, kind of in the infancy, some of these types of programs. It's sort of an updated version of the old grandparent scam. It doesn't target exclusively grandparents. It could be friends, it could be family members, but it's the same type of program where they're generating urgent situations, they need money, and it's a video, and it might look very lifelike. Some of the things that we're seeing and what we're looking at is that the AI videos they're a little awkward. Sometimes the video doesn't match the audio. Sometimes there's no blinking. Sometimes there's too much blinking. Sometimes the mouth doesn't exactly match, what the people are saying. So there are little tells that you can look for. That said, I'm sure that these things are going to improve over time, and so we're always going to be looking, for updates. So some of the FBI priorities, they've mentioned both Ryan and the FTC speaker mentioned some good programs and a lot of the types of scams that we're seeing. One of the big things that we're looking at in the FBI is identified fraudulent crypto wallets. We have an operation called Operation Level Up, and it started in 2024. And this was heavily influenced by our IC3.gov submissions, where we were able to identify a lot of fraudulent crypto wallets where money had been sent. And we can then use that information. We can see people that have made contributions. Hopefully, they've not been big contributions. We can call them and warn them that they are part of a scam and that they need to stop. Need to stop the activity. We have alerted over 8,000 victims to this type of fraud. 77% of the victims have been unaware that they're being scammed. Estimated savings, because a lot of these people have made some small contributions and then they're going to be making a big one, has been over $500 million. And 80 of the victims in the most tragic situations have been referred to FBI victim specialists for suicide prevention. Because a lot of these victims, some of them, have liquidated their 401k retirement savings. They've sold homes. They've taken out loans to make these contributions. These types of operation are commonly referred to as pig butchering. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with that term. It's an ugly term, and it's an ugly program. Basically, somebody reaches out to a victim. It might be through a romance scam. It might be through an affinity group, a religious organization, people in the military, people with common interests, and you get them to invest a little money. Then you generate a statement showing, hey, look what your investment's doing. It's making a good return, and don't you want to invest a little more? Or sometimes they even send a little money back to them saying, like, here's your dividend. Now, if you really want to make big money, now's the time to get everything you can and send it to us. And then they send a big contribution, and then everything just stops. The person disappears, the crypto is gone. And so it's like fattening up the pig to butcher it. That's where that ugly term comes in. So, like I said, romance scams, affinity scams, we see those types of activities involved in this. Some of the other schemes that we have noticed in the Operation Level Up involve, we've mentioned fake jobs. We had a local person who was recruited on Indeed.com to receive and resend packages, and they were going to be paid in crypto. And in order to have the crypto account, in order to receive the payment, he had to make a contribution to the crypto account, which was subsequently stolen. And what he was really doing was being used in a money laundering operation. Government impersonators, we are seeing that kind of activity. Contacting people saying they're from the government and informing them that their assets have been compromised, that their assets are being used in illegal activity. And so you need to liquidate those assets, and we'll safeguard those if you send us crypto or if you send us gold bullion. And it sounds very convincing. It's from the government. And then that money is distributed, it's sent, and then it's gone. Chris asked me earlier, do we ever have any successes in trying to stop the activity or reverse some of the activity? We do have something called the Recovery Asset Team. Every field office in the FBI has a representative. We have one in Cincinnati that has contacts with all the financial institutions where if we get a quick enough response from a victim, we can reach out to these financial institutions and say, hey, this is a wire transfer, or this is a transfer that we need to stop. And in 2024, we were able to freeze almost $500 million in domestic transfers and over $92 million in international transfers. So there are some successes, compared to the $16.6 billion in total losses. I know it's a small amount, but it's, at least we are able to help in some situations. Another news story that maybe some people are familiar with is last year in October, we were able to seize $15 billion in crypto from an organization in Cambodia called the Prince Group. Basically, these were assets of a large-scale scam factory using forced labor. A lot of these scams, it's been mentioned before, they're generated overseas, and they're actually perpetrated by people that are recruited for jobs, and then they're sent to these factories or these centers where that's all they do is they scam people all day. It's terrible conditions. They're sometimes they're not paid, they're not fed, they're not allowed to leave. So that was a great success for us. So we are having some successes. We're working continuously to stay on top of the fraud environment and educate the public. And again, I appreciate this type of opportunity to talk about some of these programs. And that's pretty much what I have. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have questions for Stephen?
Real quick one for me, Steve.
Yes.
We think of things locally as happening elsewhere. That's our Cincinnati nature, I think. Like,
Sure.
This stuff doesn't happen, but it does clearly. But what would you just speak to the local? I mean, you've done so to a degree, but
yeah.
I mean, these things seem so foreign to a lot of people that have managed to stay untouched by the grace of the good Lord. But there are local examples, aren't there? Just talking about that impact.
Sure, there are. What we've seen in this area, in our area that we cover, the Southern District, Ohio, we've seen some business email compromise and ransomware that affects businesses. We've seen tech support is still a big one, where you might have a pop-up on your screen that says your system is infected, call this number or click this link, and somebody will convince you to give them access over your system. So anything like that, legitimate companies won't do that. If you are getting a pop-up screen like that, shut your computer down, restart it, take it to a reputable person if you continue to have the problem. But yeah, we see a lot of the operation level up that I mentioned. We have 2 dedicated agents that spent a lot of last year, and I work on the other side of the wall from them, and I listen to them making phone calls. And some of them are tragic because they just have no idea that the person that they've been talking to is not a real person. And it's hard for some of them to accept. Nobody wants to think that they've been scammed, and it can be embarrassing. But one thing I always try to say in my presentations is, you're not the only one, and these scammers are good at what they do. So, as soon as you realize what's happening, reach out to law enforcement, reach out to a friend or family member that might be able to help you. Reach out to your bank if you sent money. Time is of the essence. Yes.
If someone calls it, how can they get in contact with your asset team? And how often would you say you guys are actually able to?
Well, I hate to say it depends, but it does. It depends on the scope, probably the size of people are scammed out of $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. every day. If it's a large scale wire fraud and they've reached out to us through ic3.gov, then we can sometimes make a difference. Of the opportunities that we tried to intervene last year with the recovery asset team, we were successful 66% of the time. But I don't want to give false hope that somebody that got scammed for a smaller amount of money that's the usual, because it's not. A lot of times this money is sent overseas, and once it's gone, especially if it's like a crypto deposit, unfortunately it's gone. And but I wouldn't discourage people from reporting it through IC3 to from contacting their local law enforcement or state law enforcement, because even if we can't help them get money back, it helps us to identify trends and present that to people of certain things to look for. Yes, sir.
If I can follow up,
Sure.
people, viewers at home, you're telling them to report these crimes, you're able to recover some of the money and
Yes.
some cannot. But viewers at home are going to say, well, why aren't they being prosecuted, for these scams? Obviously, a lot of, as most people mentioned here, a lot of them are overseas. But what other factors are involved that make, without even way, obviously, investigate details and tactics, what makes it more difficult to prosecute these scammers who are, trying to break these people?
Right. That's a good question, and unfortunately, I don't have a great answer. I will say that some of the prosecutions have involved countries that we have a good law enforcement partnership with. We've had people extradited. We have identified some of these scams that are domestic, and we do prosecute some. There was a large operation out of Illinois a few years ago that had scammed people through romance scams. We had one here in Cincinnati that was a romance scam operation, and we are working with our prosecutors to pursue those cases. So we don't get to all of them. I will admit that, but I think that it's important, because even if we can't prosecute or get your money back, it all helps us to develop the trends and get a good view of the environment that we're working with. So. Anybody else? All right.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I feel like I could talk to Stephen and you're okay. Stephen and Ryan all day. They are just a wealth of information and knowledge. We appreciate that. And knowledge is power. So getting this information out is so important. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Ainsley for the conclusion.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much to all of our speakers, Ryan, Steve, Sammi. We so appreciate you guys coming out, taking the time to do this. It's so important to educate our consumers and share this really valuable information. I want to let you guys in the media know, if you want to stick around for some one-on-one interviews, please please feel free to do so. And then I also have some folders prepared with speaker bios, as well as their contact information here, and then also a sheet on the scams that we talked about today. That's all we have for you. So thank you so much for coming out. Bye.
Thank you all.